Once upon a time, in the kingdom of Luminara, there lived a princess named Celestia, whose voice could make the flowers dance, and whose laughter brought warmth to the coldest winter days. She was beloved by all who knew her, with hair that shimmered like midnight silk and eyes that held the depth of the evening sky. Princess Celestia spent her days in the royal gardens, singing to the birds and tending to the white roses that bloomed only for her gentle touch. Her father, the kind King Alderon, promised her that she would one day marry for love alone, never for duty or alliance, and this filled her heart with quiet joy. But happiness, as it often does in tales of magic and wonder, attracted the attention of those with darkness in their hearts. In the shadows of the Moonvale Forest lived an enchantress named Nyx, whose beauty had long ago faded with her cruel deeds, leaving her twisted with bitterness and envy. When Nyx saw Princess Celestia dancing in the meadows, radiant and free, rage consumed her withered heart. She had once been admired throughout the realm, but now children ran from her sight, and adults whispered prayers of protection when she passed. Unable to bear that another should possess the joy and beauty she had lost, Nyx began to weave a terrible curse. On the night of Celestia's 18th birthday, as the kingdom celebrated with lanterns and music, Nyx appeared in a swirl of black mist at the castle gates. Before the guards could stop her, she raised her gnarled staff toward the balcony where Celestia stood watching the festivities.
You who have everything I once possessed shall know what it means to be unseen and unheard.
A bolt of green lightning struck the princess, and she cried out as dark magic wrapped around her like chains.
From this day forth, with every sunrise, you shall become a starling, a small brown bird. Only when the moon rises will you return to your true form. This curse shall remain until a prince loves you in both forms equally and discovers your true name before the final moon of autumn. But no word of your plight may pass your lips to any soul, or you shall remain a bird forever.
With cackling laughter, Nyx vanished, leaving Celestia collapsed upon the cold stone floor. The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight touched the princess's chamber, her father watched in horror as his beloved daughter transformed. Her form shrank and shifted, her arms becoming wings, her voice becoming the simple chirp of a starling. The small brown bird flew frantically around the room, and though King Alderon could see the desperate intelligence in those tiny eyes, she could tell him nothing. The royal physicians and wizards tried every counterspell they knew, but Nyx's magic was ancient and powerful. As weeks passed, the kingdom fell into mourning. Each day, Princess Celestia would become a bird and fly into the gardens, and each night she would return to human form in her locked chamber, weeping tears of frustration and loneliness. She could not speak of the curse, could not ask for help, and autumn was swiftly approaching. In the neighboring kingdom of Thornwick, there lived a prince named Dorian, whose heart was as brave as his mind was clever. Unlike other princes, who spent their days hunting or practicing swordplay, Dorian loved to read in ancient books and explore forgotten places, seeking knowledge and adventure. He had heard tales of the cursed Princess Celestia, and though many princes had tried and failed to break her enchantment, against his father's wishes, Prince Dorian set out for Luminara, determined to solve the mystery that had baffled the kingdom's greatest minds. When Dorian arrived at the castle, King Alderon received him with little hope.
Many have tried, brave prince, but my daughter cannot speak of what has befallen her.
She disappears each dawn and returns only at moonrise, and we are no closer to understanding the curse than we were at the beginning.
Dorian asked to see the princess, and that evening he was brought to her chambers. When Celestia appeared at moonrise, transforming from bird to maiden before his astonished eyes, Dorian saw not just her legendary beauty, but the profound sadness that dwelt within her.
Princess Celestia, I am Prince Dorian of Thornwick. I cannot promise to break your curse, but I swear I will not abandon you while any hope remains.
Celestia's eyes filled with tears at his kindness.
Oh, Dorian, thank you. I have to tell you about the curse.
But when she opened her mouth to thank him, the curse tightened around her throat like a noose. She could only nod and gesture toward the window, where the moon hung like a silver coin in the dark sky. Dorian understood that time was precious. He spent the remaining hours of that night sitting beside her, telling her stories of his travels and asking yes or no questions that she could answer with nods, slowly piecing together clues. When dawn approached and Celestia began to panic, Dorian took her hand gently.
Whatever form you take, I will find you,
he promised. As the sun rose and Celestia transformed once more into a starling, Dorian watched the bird carefully. Instead of staying in the castle, the starling flew out the window toward the royal gardens. Dorian followed, running through the morning dew, and there in the garden of white roses, he found the soza brown bird perched on a marble fountain.
So this is where you go.
The starling cocked its head, regarding him with intelligent eyes, and then began to sing.
The world is waking. Can you hear the call? The magic lives within us all.
Her song was more beautiful than any bird's melody Dorian had ever heard. He spent the entire day in the garden, talking to the starling as if she were still the princess, telling her jokes and sharing his thoughts, reading poetry aloud from a book he'd brought. The starling stayed near him, sometimes perching on his shoulder, and though she could not respond with words, Dorian felt her presence and understood somehow that she was listening. This became their pattern. Each day, Dorian would spend every moment with the starling, learning her movements and moods, bringing her seeds and fresh water, protecting her from the palace cats. Each night, he would sit with Princess Celestia in her chambers, and though she could not speak of the curse, they would communicate through writing, gestures, and the growing language of their hearts. Dorian found himself falling in love, deeply, truly in love, with both the clever, spirited bird who kept him company by day and the beautiful, brave princess who fought against despair each night. He did not realize they were one and the same. He only knew that his days felt empty without the starling's song, and his nights felt cold without Celestia's presence. As autumn deepened and leaves began to fall like golden rain, Dorian noticed the princess growing more anxious. She would point desperately at the calendar, at the waning moon, trying to communicate something urgent. Only 3 days remained until the final moon of autumn, and Dorian still had not discovered the secret to breaking the curse. In his frustration, he wandered into the Moonvale forest, seeking the solitude of ancient trees to clear his mind. There, in a clearing where moonlight pooled like mercury, he encountered the enchantress Nyx herself.
So you are the foolish prince who thinks to break my curse, Do you even understand what you face? The princess must be loved in both her forms, and you must speak her true name before autumn ends. But you spend your days with a silly bird and your nights with a girl who cannot tell you anything. You have failed.
She began to laugh, a sound like breaking glass. But then Dorian's face transformed with sudden understanding. The pieces fell into place. The starling's intelligent eyes, the princess's appearance only at moonrise, the identical sadness he had sensed in both. The starling is Princess Celestia, Dorian whispered, and Nyx's laughter died in her throat.
They are not two beings I have come to love, but one soul in two forms, and I have loved them both, equally, completely, without even knowing.
He turned and ran from the forest, his heart pounding, racing back to the castle as fast as his legs could carry him. He had to reach the princess before sunrise, had to tell her that he understood, that he knew her secret. But would that be enough? What was the final piece of the puzzle? Dorian burst into Celestia's chambers just as the first gray light of dawn touched the horizon. The princess stood at the window, tears streaming down her face, knowing this was the second to last day before the curse became permanent. Dorian fell to his knees before her, taking her hands in his.
Celestia, I know the truth. I know that you are the Starling, that you have been with me all along. I have loved you in both forms, never realizing I was loving the same extraordinary soul. But there is something more, isn't there? Something I must still discover.
Celestia nodded desperately, and then the sunlight struck her, and once more she transformed. That day, Dorian walked through the gardens with the starling on his shoulder, speaking aloud his thoughts.
Your name is Celestia, but that is not the answer. There must be something more, something hidden.
He thought of every conversation, every moment they had shared. Then he remembered something the king had said, that Celestia's mother, the late queen, had possessed a secret name, a true name, known only to those who loved her most deeply.
Do you have a true name? A name your mother gave you, perhaps, that no one else knows?
The starling sang a melody Dorian had heard before, a lullaby Celestia had hummed one night when she thought he was asleep. And in that melody, Dorian heard something he had missed, a pattern, a rhythm that formed sounds.
Lumiel. Your true name is Lumiel.
Lumiel!
The starling burst into brilliant light, the curse shattering like glass around her. She fell into Dorian's arms, gasping and laughing and crying all at once.
You broke it. You loved me in both forms. You discovered my true name. And you broke Nyx's curse.
The white roses around them burst into bloom, more magnificent than ever before, as if celebrating with them. King Alderaan rushed into the gardens, having seen the flash of light, and found his daughter restored at last. The kingdom erupted in celebration, with bells ringing from every tower and people dancing in the streets. As for the enchantress Nyx, when her curse was broken, all her stolen magic finally paying the price for her cruelty. Prince Dorian and Princess Celestia were married in the Garden of White Roses, beneath a sky filled with starlings who sang the most beautiful song ever heard in Luminara. And though Celestia could now remain human all day and all night, she never forgot what it was like to be small and overlooked, to be judged only by her appearance. She ruled her kingdom with wisdom and compassion, always remembering that true love sees the soul within, no matter what form it takes. And on quiet evenings, Dorian would sometimes hear her humming that ancient lullaby, the one that spelled out Lumiel, and he would smile, knowing he had been blessed to love both the bird and the princess, and to discover they had always been the same remarkable person. And they lived happily ever after, proving that true love recognizes the heart beneath any disguise, and that the most powerful magic of all is the magic of seeing someone truly, both who they are and who they have always been.